Book your wedding day with us. Salon DNA, 415-956-1909.
Hello, I'm Claudia Eisman, and welcome to California Up Now. This show is dedicated to the news and the people that make our Golden State great. Our guest today is legal and political analyst for KPIX5, Melissa Griffin-Caen. Our topic today is November elections. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get right to it. The primaries. Give us a summary.
Well, so this primary was a pretty standard one in terms of turnout, right? So when there's an incumbent president, turnout tends to be pretty low. In 2012, the primary turnout was around 30%. In 2008, it was really high at about 58%. What's interesting is we saw such a surge in voter registration right up before Election Day. So, did that translate? It doesn't seem to have directly translated at this point. So we saw about 650,000 people signing up in the weeks leading up to the Election Day. That didn't necessarily, they didn't necessarily show up to vote. However, a lot of folks who signed up, maybe some folks who are fired up either for or against Donald Trump, are waiting for the November election to participate. So we may see a bigger surge in electoral turnout in November as a result of these of the sign-ups that were happening sort of right before this election. All
right. Well, what about the state Senate, or rather the Senate seat? Kamala Harris and Loretta Sanchez. What do you think?
Well, so Kamala Harris performed better than expected. The polls had her between like 25% and 30%, and she performed at about 40%. Loretta Sanchez has to be a little nervous about that, but here's two things that Sanchez is counting on. Number one, the Republicans need somewhere to go, basically, in November. So Republicans who are okay with voting for a Democrat are probably going to turn out for her because she has positioned herself sort of a little to the right of Kamala Harris, certainly on like national security issues, things like that. So I think Sanchez is hoping for some Republican turnout for her in the fall, now that there's no Republican on the ballot, right? The second thing she's hoping for is that with the increased just number of voters that come out, the Hispanic vote will sort of be drawn to her because of her ethnicity and also because of her life story, which is compelling. So those two things together, I think she's sort of banking on for a November victory, but she's got to be a little disappointed that Kamala did so well in this primary.
All right. Well, we'll skip ahead now to, actually, we're going backwards because we're going to talk about the convention coming up this summer, the Republican convention. What do you think about that?
Well, there's been some new sort of twittering about the Republican convention. A lot of Republicans, even some who initially aligned themselves with Donald Trump, are now sort of questioning whether or not there's going to be any way to keep him from getting the nomination. Some folks are really disappointed in his reaction to the Orlando shooting, for example, and sort of his attack on the judge in the Trump University case. And they're nervous that going forward, he's going to be as unpredictable as he has been, right? And so that's something that's bothering a lot of them. And so there's now a new conversation about potentially changing the rules at the convention to unbind the delegates and allow them to vote for whatever candidate they want to vote for. And that hope that for these folks means not Donald Trump. Now, that would be essentially political suicide for whoever spearheads this, because they really would be going against the demonstrated will of the people. So I think there's a lot of Republicans sort of sitting around hoping someone will jump on that grenade and go for it at the convention. I think it's turning into what was probably going to be a sort of boring convention, is going to be a little more exciting. There's probably going to be an attempt, we don't know by who, but an attempt to change the rules or an attempt to oust Trump as the nominee. But it looks like the Republican convention has just got interesting again.
So are you going to make a guess, go out on a limb? Who do you think's going to jump on that grenade?
Well, it would have to be somebody who's got some legitimacy, right? I mean, you don't want some just sort of random person. Maybe a Mitt Romney who doesn't wish, who otherwise his political career is over, and he will tell you that. So he doesn't anticipate running for office again. So this might be one last sort of gasp to try and save the party, since he doesn't depend on a re-election for his career. So that's a thought. There may be others.
And Bernie Sanders, is he finito?
Well, effectively, he is. There is technically a way he could be the Democratic nominee. If Hillary Clinton were arrested tomorrow, he could still be the Democratic nominee. The thing about Bernie Sanders is he's got something that the Democrats want, right? He's got his supporters' contact information. He's got their love and adoration and the legitimacy that comes with that. And the Democratic Party, sort of needs that new blood, needs that enthusiasm. But the Democratic Party has something that he wants, right? They have control of the platform. They have control over the superdelegates and the other sort of machinations of how elections work. So he wants them to sort of change how they're doing things, and they want him to endorse. So it's going to be a matter of these two things coming together for a trade. Now, that could happen today, that could happen at the convention, but sometime between now and the end of July, I think there's going to be an agreement between the two parties. Until then, though, I don't think Bernie Sanders has any reason to drop out. That would be throwing away a perfectly good bargaining chip at a table where he definitely wants something from the party. So I don't think he's going anywhere until that agreement is struck.
All right. Well, stay tuned. Sounds like it's going to get interesting.
Very excited.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Melissa. We really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. And thanks for watching California Up Now. And don't forget to like us on Facebook. Have a great day.